back for episode 2 of Thursdays with Mom. And Mom and I, we've planned this time about what we're going to talk about. And I think it's really fascinating to hear her describe the first house that she remembers that she lived in. It was a house with 1 bedroom, a living room, a kitchen, and a pantry. Is that right, Mom?
That's right.
And it had what's called a dog trot running down the middle of it. And if anybody that's watching this is familiar with the Sadler house there on Eastern Valley Road, Mom says it's similar to that house, but hers only had 1 level, where the Sadler house has an upstairs. Okay, Mom, so I'm done talking. So you tell me about the house you grew up in.
Well, it had a long porch across the front, like you said, with the hall down the middle. I called it a dog trot because the dogs could sleep in there at night, out of the weather.
Did you have a dog?
Yeah, I don't remember his name, but we had a dog. Yeah, and we had some good times there. We had a well out the back. If you went out the back door, we had a well out at the edge of the yard, and it would go dry during the summertime. And when it would go dry during the hot summertime, well, each one of us kids, which there were 8 of us, but I recall that we all had a little pail of some kind. It might have been a little syrup pail or whatever, little tin pail. And each one of us that could carry water, we had to walk up this little dirt lane up to Pocahontas Road and go across and the road into a little hill, a little mountain like, and at the base of the mountain there was a good cool spring, and we would walk up the little path to that little spring and fill our buckets full of water and bring them back. And I remember your Aunt Betty talking about when she got down one time, she got on her knees. We always had to lay down to get a good drink of water out of the spring, but your Aunt Betty, she laid down to get her drink of water and a snake popped up and scared her, and she dropped her pail of water, and Uncle Doug had to come running back up the path. He and Uncle Denson and Uncle Don was already on the path with their pails of water heading back down to the Goocher Road, and they heard Aunt Betty scream. And Uncle Doug dropped his pail and took off running, and he saw it was a snake, and Aunt Betty thought it was bigger than it was. It was a small snake, but to her it was a big snake. And so Uncle Doug killed it, and Aunt Betty refilled her little bucket of water, and I filled mine. And Uncle Doug had to refill his because he spilled on his water. Anyway,
So now this is when the well got low that you had to
during
go
the
up.
summertime, yeah.
So, and that was the only 2 ways that you got water to the
Right.
house, right?
Right. We didn't have running water. We had a well out to the side of the house and towards the back of the house where we had good water up until summertime, when it got real dry back then, during like August, July and August, the hot summer months. And it would go dry at least maybe 4 to 6 weeks out of the year.
Did you take baths in the stream?
No.
Oh, how did you get?
We were not allowed to get in that water.
Okay.
Now the water, we had a little stream that ran down below our house, maybe 200-300 yards to the back of the house and out past the outhouse that was on down between the house, the yard, and the field where our brothers had to grow corn and vegetables out there. But we also had a little garden in the yard. But we had this little stream at the back of the yard, and we could always go down there when it was nice and cool to sit and play. And your Uncle Doug would make us little windmills out of corn sticks. and he would stretch it across a little stream and put little rocks around it to build a little dam where the water would run swiftly and turn the little windmill. And we'd sit there for the longest watching that little windmill.
And that was, okay, so this is the stream where you got your baths, right?
And what little bit we got was
Doesn't sound like they had baths very much.
we didn't. We had a big old bathtub, which was a
Yeah.
big old round tin tub, galvanized tub, and we would put water in that from the well at night. Now, we had to really be careful with the water because we didn't have a running water like we do today.
I know.
We had to get it from the well, or we had to get it from the stream. Now, drinking water we carried from the spring up on the past Pocahontas Road up there, off of Dickey Springs, I think's what they call it. But
And
anyway,
here we are in 2022.
yeah,
We have plenty of running water.
yeah,
We have toilets inside the house. In case y'all didn't catch that earlier, they had to go to an outhouse. An outhouse is an outdoor, very primitive bathroom. Correct, Mom?
yes,
Very primitive toilet.
with only one seat.
Yeah.
People who up the road had a fancy one had two seats.
Oh boy. See, they weren't fancy. They only had one seat.
Right.
So, okay, so they had to go to the toilet in an outhouse. They had to get water for bathing and cooking from outside the house.
Right.
And here we are in 2022, and a lot of times we don't even want to drink the water coming out of our faucet. We buy bottled water.
That's right.
How things have changed
They really have.
in less than 100 years.
It's hard to believe, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Okay, so Mom, it looks like things have changed quite a bit in your 93 years
Yes,
here
they
on
have.
this planet.
Yes.
So tell me, I mentioned in the first video, you are one of 8 children.
That's right.
So name those children, and what number were you?
Okay. Uncle George was my oldest brother, George Hulsey Jr. And then Uncle Douglas Marvin Hulsey. And then Donald William Hulsey. Then Denson, I forgot Denson's middle name all of a sudden. After Denson was your Aunt Betty, Betty Jean Hulsey. And then after Betty Jean was me, I was the middle girl, Janice Elaine. And then after me was the Lois. But then after your Auntie Lois was your Uncle Max Paul Hulsey. And we all went to McAdory School.
Well, right now, though, we want to talk about 1934, 1935, when you were about 7 years old.
Okay.
And we want to talk about the house that they lived in on Goocher Road.
Okay.
So she's one of 8, and so you're probably wondering, it's a tiny house. What were the sleeping arrangements? I know I was curious. So, Mama, how did you guys all sleep in that little house?
Well, on the right of the big hall as you went in the entrance was one large room, and it was a bedroom. And on one side of the bedroom was one bed that we 3 girls slept in. And on the other side of the bedroom at the end was two beds for my brothers, George, Doug, Don, Denson. Uncle Max, he slept over on the other side of the hall in the living room where Mother and Dad's bed was.
Yeah, her
Back there.
parents' bed was part of the living room.
Right,
They didn't have a separate master bedroom.
sure didn't. And you went out of the living room into the kitchen. But the big fireplace was in the living room, and that's where we had a lot of good times. Mother had an old popcorn popper, and she would pop corn in that old, it looked like made out of fence, but it was a popcorn popper. And she would pop us corn that was brought from the field where the boys had made corn, had grown the corn and all out there, had the big field of corn, and Mother would pop the corn, and then she'd make corn balls with syrup, homemade syrup that she
sounds
made.
good.
And we got it syrup all over our hands, you know, making the corn balls, and they were real good. We had a good time there around there, and we always had a little small Christmas tree that we made strings of popcorn around to go on the Christmas tree for ornaments.
And this is corn from your garden.
Yep, from the field out there.
All right, so tell me about the kitchen. What kind of appliances did your mom have?
Mother had one big old iron stove, and it had an oven in it, of course. And it also, on the left side of it, it had a place to fire the wood. And it seems like, as well as I recall, above it was a little, what did I call it, Jerry, before?
The vent?
No,
The vent over the...
no, it was a little place on the left of the oven where they had the water. She heated the water.
I forgot what you called it.
Yeah.
Reservoir?
Yeah, reservoir, a little reservoir like on the left side of the oven. And the boys would always have to cut the wood to have enough wood in the house to stoke that old stove for Mother to cook biscuits and bacon and so on.
Here we go, talking about those fresh biscuits again. We're going to have to do a video, Mom, of you teaching me how to cook homemade biscuits. That ought to be something.
Right. And one other good thing I remember at that old kitchen stove was Grandmother Lyons, my mother's mother. She would come about once a year and stay about 2 weeks, sometimes a little longer, but mostly about 2 weeks. And she would make us tea cakes out of flour and sugar and vanilla flavoring.
Now that sounds fancy.
It was really good. We had a big old round table that we all sat around to eat, and in the kitchen. And that's where she mixed up the tea cakes and cooked them in that old iron stove. They were really good. They'd last maybe a month at the most. But with 8 kids, you can imagine they didn't last very long.
This was your mom's mom? Your grandmother Lyons?
My mother's mother. Mm-hmm.
And did she live in Bessemer too?
She visited she lived in Bessemer when Mother was young, but she visited around her daughters. She had at daughters' homes with them every year. And I don't recall which daughter she lived with the most, but I remember we had an Aunt Pearl and an Aunt Alma, and goodness, I can't remember all of them. Seemed like there were about 4 of those, 4 or 5 of those girls.
We'll talk more about those
mothers.
And about Mother's siblings and your dad's siblings on a different video.
Yeah, Daddy.
Because there's so much to talk about.
Yeah,
and things I'm learning as we go through this.
You're learning
this
a lot.
series. I am, because I never thought about where my granddad and my grandmother, and I called her Meemaw.
Yeah.
I never knew Mom's dad. I never knew my grandfather. He passed long before I came along.
Yeah.
But we're going to talk about that too, because his family is from Georgia. And of course, my Meemaw is there from Bessemer and McCalla.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Mom, anything else you want to say for now, and until they could catch us again next week?
You were asking me about Uncle Denson leading our old cow.
Oh.
From the Gucci place.
Mom was talking last night about Denson was walking that cow. Denson was walking that cow. I said, Mom, why was Denson walking the cow? Why didn't he just leave the cow where it was? And she finally told me. So tell me a little bit about that, Mom. Why did Denson have to walk that cow for so long to get from one point to another?
We were moving from the old Gucci place to Eastern Valley, and Daddy had to go to a sanatorium because he had that black lung, and so they had to put him in in something like an old folks home, but it was a sanatorium where he would get fresh air and fresh water and all to take care of him. And we had to move, and Mother was able to get this new home up at Eastern Valley. And
was the road still a dirt road at that point?
The road was still dirt road up Eastern Valley
We're still
Road.
talking in the 1930s.
Right, yeah.
Okay.
And so we moved up to Eastern Valley, and some way we had to get the old cow. I called her Bessie, but I think her name was Bossy.
Bessie Bossy.
It doesn't make any difference. But anyhow, we had one old cow that Mother wouldn't part with for anything, and so we had to find a way to get him or her up to Eastern Valley. And so Uncle Dutson and Uncle Don were chosen to lead the cow, and they had to lead that cow up Pocahontas Road all the way up to Eastern Valley Road, and it was all dirt road back then. And Uncle Dutson and Uncle Don had to lead that cow all the way to our new house. And when Uncle Dutson and Uncle Don got up there from having to, it was in the summertime, and they were so hot and sweaty, and Uncle Dutson was so tired and exhausted, and he didn't ever want to see that cow again. But they had to lead that cow all the way up Eastern Valley Road, from Pocahontas all the way up, from Gucci Road to Pocahontas, and all the way up. And well, I'll never forget that, because Mother held on to that old cow. She wanted that cow for milk and butter, and we kept that cow for a long time.
Do you remember how long you had the cow?
I don't recall when she died or what happened to her after we got up there and got grown. I don't recall. But I know that she must not live too long, because Mother had to go to work after Daddy died in 41. Daddy died in February of 41, so I don't think we had her too long after that.
Okay.
But we had a big house up there with more bedrooms and more room, with a dining room and living room, and I think there were 2 large bedrooms, and we had running water.
Progress.
Right, with an inside bathroom.
All right. Well, Mom, I think that's a lot to digest for today.
Oh, goodness, I need to write a book, and when I think about these things, put them down.
Well, that's right. That's part of why we're doing this.
Oh, okay.
We want to record all these thoughts.
Thank you.
And then maybe we'll get it written.
I hope so.
This will be easy to go back to reference as we're talking about it.
Right.
Okay. Well, let's say bye for now until next time.
Yeah, bye, Jerry.
Bye, Mom. wave goodbye to everybody, and thank you for watching.
Yeah, thank you for watching and listening to this old rambling woman. But I love you.
Have a great day, y'all.
Bye-bye.